throughout this whole thing, try to ignore the mustache. No shave November, so yes, I'm not keeping anything on the side. So good morning, even though it's 2 o'clock. Today I wanted to take some time and introduce my family. Starting out with my dad.
I am your father.
For those of you that don't know me that well, I just figured I'd do a kind of like a little overview of where I come from. Kind of the transition that we had to go through to be where we are now. So, starting out with my dad, definitely, thumbs up to him, man. How he survived and how he made things happen for himself and his younger brother, I'll never know. So, his family is originally from India. Now, just because you're from India doesn't mean you can't be a Muslim. Obviously, they live all around the world. But before Pakistan, it was part of India, and they kind of separated in 1947. So I hope I don't mess this up. So the story starts out apparently where my dad took his a younger brother and pretty much ran away from home in India, and then kind of came to Pakistan. The reason being was, I believe, from the stories I've heard, his dad was really harsh on him. Kind of ironic because me and my dad have that same relationship, but I've come to realize that I can move on. I know how to communicate with him. So he ran away with his younger brother. Went to Pakistan. Not sure how he first got started out. From what I've heard, he was actually sleeping on bus stops, kind of making it work any way needed. So much respect to him. He gave it his all. Honest, kind man, giving. While we were growing up, his business was a Xerox company. For those of you that don't quite know what that does. It's kind of like a FedEx office or like a Kinko's, but not even close to that extent. So he started out with like a photocopy machine. People would come over and he would photocopy, and that's how he made money. And you can only imagine. Obviously, that's not something you can live off of. So anyway, moving on. He got a little shop in front of a university, and he realized the potential in education, because he never had that opportunity. So what he did was he would, and I think all college students can still relate to it to this day, books are super expensive. I believe they cost as much as your actual tuition fees does. At that time, students couldn't afford books and stuff like that. So what he actually did was he would buy the book and make copies of it. There was no copyright. I'm sure there was, but being in the state that Pakistan was and is at this time, I mean, he wasn't going to get in any trouble. So he used to make copies of books and not pass them out, but he would sell them to students for really cheap. So they could actually afford it, study, and do good. That was his motto. School's been his number one thing. He's pushed all of his kids to go out and get that education. So it's not, he didn't just do that for his kids either. So that's how, that's the kind of business he started. Barely made any money. So it was more about his passion. I do remember some stories. I remember one particular story. This girl, when I was very little, and I was sitting in my dad's shop. She came by. She was crying, and me being so young, I was just sitting in a corner, not understanding what was going on. She actually came to the shop with her brother, and she started crying in front of my dad. My dad sat her down, gave her a glass of water, and they got to talking. She pretty much just came by to say thank you for helping her throughout her degree, I guess. So he really helped her kind of accomplish her goal that she had, that she wanted to graduate. She actually topped in her class, got #1 position. That's how it works back home, and it was all, she couldn't afford it, right? Her brother was working night and day to even help her assist with paying tuitions and stuff like that. So she came by to say thank you to my dad for all he's done, and just seeing that experience kind of called me selfish. I wanted to experience that. So when I came about, I've been the #1 fan of going to school, pushing people to go out, grab that knowledge. That doesn't necessarily mean going and sitting in class, right? I mean, that's the #1 thing, but read a book, go out, just learn. That should be the #1 thing. So definitely, I feel like I get that from my dad, with a whole bunch of other things, but that's definitely my favorite, and I thank him for that. Today he's an old man. He's 64. And he works he works at pretty much a dead end job at a warehouse. And I'm sure that's not his passion. That's something he had to do to kind of put me and my sisters in a place to where we could have that opportunity that he gave to other kids. So once again, thank him for that. He still works at the same job. I believe he's been there for the past 10 years. He's come across some great people. And I used to work at that place when I got out of high school. I worked there for 6 years, so came across a lot of decent people, but that's not something that you see as a career. To see him go from doing his passion to being in this position, it's so sad for me to see, to how much he had to give up to provide for me and my family. So much respect to him for that. And every single day I wake up thinking, one day, just one day, I wanna be like him. I try so hard. It's funny, people make fun of me that I dress like my dad. It's funny because I do pick out my clothes from his closet. We had a similar taste. I've been told I dressed older than my age, so that's... Anyway, but every single day I strive for greatness. I purposely do things to get a step closer to my dad. Now, remind you, I'm not a college graduate, okay? I'm very close, but I'm not. I had to drop out for personal reasons, and to have that happen, and then be in a place right now to where I do not call myself successful. I don't believe in that word, believe it or not, but that's for another day. To me, successful is my dad. He's from what he's done to where he is now, how much he had to sacrifice. I mean, I can't think of I can't think of anybody that I can compare him to. So, I know I'll never be like him, but I know that I can at least use his principles, the good deeds, the respect everybody, give more than you ask, always think of others. I do that every single day in hopes that, well, he started, I could finish. So I'm just gonna talk about my dad today, but I just wanted to take this time out to explain, kind of what background I come from, my dad comes from, and what this family really means. And for my upbringing and everything good that others point out in me, I do not take credit for it. I didn't learn it. It was forced into me, which I don't see a whole lot these days. and I can't imagine the person I would be if we lived in a different scenario or came up a different way. So, Dad, thank you for everything, and I hope to make you proud one day. And I've got a big surprise for you coming up soon, so we'll see.
You will still be here tomorrow, but your dreams may not. How can I